How's it going, guys? It's Trucker Jesus from the past. I still have the hair of wisdom. Back with another video. I'm coming at you from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I got back from Costa Rica yesterday at like 9 in the morning. Rented this beautiful Nissan Kicks. Picked up some parts in Houston, Texas, and drove all the way here in North Carolina through the night. You can probably see them. I'm picking up some parts for my BMW. There's a couple parts cars in the driveway of this house, but I'm waiting on the owner. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to have a little bit of a conversation about loads in general as a lease operator. You know, declining loads, whether Prime is consistent with the load rates, etc. So let's get to it. Okay guys, so this is actually a topic that I've been wanting to touch on for a while, but I also wanted to sit on it to gain as much experience, I guess, so I can come at you with facts, which aren't necessarily facts. It's still based on my experience, but you know, have a better foundation to argue against the things that were told to me in the beginning. The first thing that was told to me was that when I signed up for my lease was that Prime was going to give me good loads in the beginning, and they were going to slowly start feeding me bad loads to a point where I was just not going to be able to make any money or barely stay afloat. Now, I'm only about 8 months into my leasing career, so maybe it's too soon for me to wage on that, but so far that has not been true, and it doesn't seem like it is. And the second thing that I was told was that I was never going to be able to go home or decline any loads because my dispatch was going to retaliate against me in some way. If you've been watching my videos, the first part of that statement being that I was never going to be able to go home because of the truck payment is definitely not true. Again, I'm here on a parts run, and I was in Costa Rica 3 days ago.
Really? Really?
And the second part of that statement, meaning that I cannot decline any loads, has not been true either. I try not to decline loads. I want to be a team player, and I want to maintain a good relationship with my dispatch. But I also have to look after myself, so I have declined a handful of loads. Less than a handful, really. So let's start with the first topic, which was, I was told that, again, when you start your lease agreement, they will give you a lot of good loads to keep you happy or like to motivate you. But then they were going to slowly start rolling in crappy loads that wouldn't allow you to make any money. In my experience, that has not been true. I've received, I wouldn't say an equal amount of crappy and good loads. I've mostly received good loads, and by good I mean loads that pay over $2 a mile, like $2 a mile being the baseline. And that I consider a good load. I have received a couple of subpar loads, and by subpar I mean loads that are in the $1.30 a mile. Now, I would still be making money on those loads, but when you're used to making $2 per mile, a 70-cent pay cut doesn't sound thrilling or appealing. But if you looked, or if you watched my video about declining loads and trip planning, you have to sometimes realize that a crappy load, again, a load that pays $1.30 a mile, for example, might be worth taking because it will put you in a better position to get a better paying load. It may get you out of a bad area. I wouldn't necessarily dismiss a load that pays less than what I'm happy with. But in my case, the few times that I've received those kind of loads, which I can remember 3 out of the top of my head, but there's probably been more, they were paying around $1.30, $1.39 a mile, maybe one or the other. And I really wasn't thrilled about them, and I took them anyway. But due to situations out of my control, I wasn't able to fulfill those pickups. The first time was back when I was in Middlesboro. If you guys watched my video in Middlesboro back when I went hiking, I had received a Gatorade load, if I'm not mistaken, that picked up far away from Middlesboro, and it was only paying $1.30 a mile, and I didn't want to take it. But we had that issue at Smithfield where they couldn't unload me for the weekend, so I had to sit, and I got paid layover, got to spend the weekend in Middlesboro, and got released from that load. So that was the first time. And then the other time was a load that, this was in December 27th. I was supposed to pick up, I don't really remember what kind of load it was, but it was, again, in the $1.30 a mile range. And I accepted it, even though I didn't want to, but I ended up having an overage at my receiver on the load previous to that one, so I had to sit for another day, and I was freed up from that load as well. And those are the 2 that I can remember from the top of my head. I'm sure there's another one that I've actually taken in the last couple months, but I don't remember it like in detail. And I mean, I didn't decline those 2 loads. Those 2 loads I was willing to take because, again, I was still making some money and I wanted to maintain a good relationship with my dispatch. And as I've said, other than those few that I can remember and maybe another handful, for the most part, I've received good paying loads. Again, north of $2 per mile.
Money, money, money.
So the statement of Prime slowly starting to feed bad loads to lease operators is completely untrue, at least in my experience, to this date.
It'll stop any day now. Any day now. Any day now.
Now, the second statement was that I was never going to be able to decline any loads because if I did, my dispatch was going to retaliate or just leave me hanging or give me a crappier load if I did that. And just like the first statement, that has been completely untrue. Like I mentioned, 99% of the time I will accept the load just to keep the good relationship because I'm still making money. I'm not going to be thrilled about it, but some money is better than no money and sitting. But there has been a couple of situations, another 2 that I can think off the top of my head, in which I have declined loads because of bad weather, expecting to not receive any other loads for 10, 12 hours, yet I received a better load than what I was offered initially within 30 minutes. The first one was I was delivering in Hershey, Pennsylvania at the Hershey factory, and as I was heading to my delivery address, Hershey, to deliver a load, I received another load, a proposed next load that was picking up right there on the Hershey facility, heading to Ogden, Utah, north of Salt Lake City. This was back in December, I believe, and like right around the Christmas time, where there was this huge storm coming from the West Coast. And I was very blunt with my dispatch. I just said that I knew that there was bad weather coming from that direction, and I just didn't want to put myself in a position in which I could get into some dangerous situation. I hadn't experienced winter driving as much back then, and my dispatch was perfectly fine. So what I got after that was a load that picked up, I don't remember where in Pennsylvania. It was National Beef or Cargill, like 2 hours north of Hershey, and delivered in like Fredericksburg, Virginia. I believe it was like a 200-mile load, but it paid like $3 a mile or something like that. I mean, I honestly don't remember how much it paid. I just know it paid well, and it kept me on the East Coast, which was what I wanted. And then the other one was, I believe it was in January, but I'm not sure. I was in Illinois. I don't know where I was heading. It was after the blowout. It was after I had the blowout. That I remember. So I was heading somewhere in Illinois, and they sent me some load that picked up in Illinois. I don't really remember where, but it was also going to Utah. And I declined that load as well. And within 30 minutes, there was another load that picked up at a Tyson facility in Illinois, headed east. I don't remember the city, but I made a video about bad weather, and that's the load in which the storm caught up to me, because I had time to pick the load up and I should have just gone ahead. But again, like I said, those are two examples in which I declined the load and got an even better load. And what I'm going to say next is not facts. This is the way I see it, and this is how I think it works. If I'm not moving, Prime's not making any money. I mean, they have other drivers for sure, but my dispatch gains nothing from me just sitting because I decline a load. When I decline a load, I am 100% conscious that I may not get another load for a couple of hours, maybe 12 hours. That's what I'm expecting every time that I decline a load. And I'm perfectly fine just sitting for 12 hours waiting for the next load. I'm not just declining a load out of out of spite or whatever. I'm declining a load because it's not convenient for me, and if it's not convenient for me, I am willing to wait for the next convenient thing that the rolls the. So, a lot of people said to me that if I were to decline a load, my dispatch was going to be vindictive. They were going to retaliate against me by leaving me sitting or just giving me even crappier loads, stuff like that. And as I mentioned, that has, with the previous examples, that hasn't been true. The way I see it, and this is the way I see it, and I'm just giving my perspective and what I've experienced. I do notice that for the most part, my dispatch at least, they already have you on a route, right? So they already have a couple of loads like lined up. Like you're gonna deliver, say I'm going to Chicago. They are already finding another load that's taking me out of Chicago somewhere else, and keeping me running. So sometimes if I decline a load, that throws off the, I guess, the planning that they had for me, and I may have to wait for them to find me something else. But at least with my dispatch and my fleet manager and the people that I'm in constant communication with that feed me my loads, I have never sensed any anger, resentment, any signs of them being upset at me for declining a load. Not that that would matter, because, like I mentioned in the past, I try to be a team player. I only decline a load when it's really not convenient for me. And it's really based on weather. I will take a crappy load for the most part because I'm still making money and it's better than sitting. But again, the few times that I've declined, they've said that their response has been nothing but, okay, let me find something else. And again, because I'm not used to just declining loads out of, I don't know, spite, or because I'm being like greedy, or I don't, there's a word for it. Like, I'm not just declining loads because, oh, I just want more money. Like, the few times that I do decline the loads, I am totally willing to sit for 12 hours or as long as I have to until they find me another load. So I don't really make a big deal about it if they take a while. Like, I already have it in my mind that it's going to be a while before they find me that next load. But also, no one benefits from a driver sitting. You know, that myth of dispatch, I'm not going to say, okay, let me take that back. There are people that are vindictive. Unfortunately, we are not in the perfect world. But if someone in dispatching or sales or whoever is vindictive or retaliates in some way, it's really stupid. I'm sorry, but no one benefits from a driver sitting. The company doesn't make any money, the driver doesn't make any money, nobody's really happy. And it's been my experience with my fleet manager that it is a mutual beneficial relationship in which they use this term, I'll scratch his back, he'll scratch my back. And I wouldn't say that I've brought that up. I just try to be a team player, and it's worked out just fine for me. But for the most part, if you are to decline a load, they will find someone else to take it. More than likely, a poor, and I don't mean poor like in a bad way, but I mean, if it's one of those loads that is going to an area with bad weather and a lot of people decline it, some company driver is probably going to be forced to take it. But also, of course, if there is a shortage of loads, and fleet managers are very straightforward with communicating that, if there's a shortage of loads and you decline a load because it doesn't benefit you, you're willing to, I mean, at that point you're definitely willing to sit, so you can't really complain. But especially when there's a shortage of loads, I will be more inclined to accept a crappy load, just to get me out of a bad place, again, to a better area or whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty basic for me. But again, I just wanted to reiterate it, like that mentality of retaliation It really makes no sense. Like I said, for the most part, dispatch already has you on a path and they have some loads lined up for you. Rarely does it happen that I don't get a proposed next load before I deliver my current load. Yeah. And again, if I decline one, it makes perfect. It's completely understandable that it takes them a little bit to find me something else. But they never, I never get the sense of them making me sit on purpose. And even if they did, I mean, I'm chilling. I chose to sit, so yeah. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I may be forgetting some details, but if you have any questions or any input or anything to say about this topic, please hit me in the comments. I'll try to reply or maybe expand on it on another video. And that's it. I want to thank you guys for watching. I guess we'll go back to
it's a good example. You know what? Again, we serve a loving Father. This is the perfect example. So we just talk about being a father, but you talk about God. You serve a loving God who wants what's best for you. But He will say, "That's not good for you. I love you. I want you to enjoy the fruits of your labor. I want you to enjoy everything that I've offered, that I've laid before you. But you need to go and sin no more." It is not compassionate or empathetic to inspire other people to continue down